recording.
All right. Hey students, my name is Ronald. I'm the middle school pastor at the 410 campus for Wayside Chapel. It is awkward to talk about Jesus. I understand, I know. I've been a youth pastor for a long time, and I used to be able to walk into a school cafeteria and sit down at a table and just have conversations with students. And whenever I did, it was always great and a ton of fun until my kids or my students outed me and said, "You know he's a youth pastor?" Vroom. Awkward immediately, right? And what's even better is now that I'm an adult, I often get asked, Ronald, what do you do for a living? Well, I could either in that circumstance lie and be untruthful and say I work with people in a volunteer organization in a nonprofit, or I could just say I'm a pastor. Honestly, I go for pastor. Sometimes the reactions are, I don't know what to say to you, pastor, or they want to tell me about where they went to church when they were a teenager, or maybe where they would go to church, except for they haven't been in a long time. It's awkward to talk about faith and religion and Jesus. I know that you've been in a circle of students, and when Jesus comes up, not in a swearing way, but in a conversation way, maybe it feels like the tone of the conversation shifts. Now, you, as someone who can be a part of the conversation, have the opportunity to make it not be quite so awkward. I'm going to give you just a couple tips. This is not going to be a pull the track out of your pocket, the little booklet, and say, I'm going to read the Romans Road to you. This is more how to go on a journey with somebody who you know needs to hear the good news of Jesus. One of the great things that I think you can do is when you make a mistake, when you hurt somebody, when you do something and you lie, or maybe you hurt somebody's feelings, you can come up to them and you can say, you know what? I'm sorry. I hurt you. I did something to you that was wrong and I need to apologize. That is a great way to begin to talk about forgiveness when you do something wrong. A better way is when someone wrongs you. When somebody does something that hurts your feelings. When somebody does something that is wrong in your direction. You could get mad. You could get angry. But instead, you also have the opportunity to tell that person, you know, I'm a Christian and God's forgiven me for so much. I have to forgive you too. I want to forgive you because I want you to feel what it's like to be forgiven. Now, you might go, Ronald, that still sounds a little bit awkward. And maybe it does, but it gives you just the smallest way to begin a conversation about forgiveness and what God has done for you. Another great way to talk about God and to get the conversation started in that is to maybe steer the conversation towards what you see. If God is our creator, then, well, you can talk about creation. You can talk about what you see, like a sunset or something that you find, or an animal or whatever, something beautiful in nature, and just go, and I'm so glad God made that. You don't have to take that conversation further than that. It puts the ball in somebody else's court. It lets them know and understand that you have God on your mind. Another great way to begin to share the gospel with somebody is to bring up historical Jesus. And I mean that by saying, talk about who Jesus was. If something comes up where there's maybe a moral question in class, or somebody's going, I would prefer to do this over this, or a teacher is asking what you would do in a certain situation, you as a student, you're allowed to bring up Jesus in the conversation. It's not against the rules. You can talk about what Jesus said about forgiving other people. You can talk about what Jesus said when it comes to hating other people. Now, when you're doing that in a classroom setting, you might get challenges. People might tell you that, well, they know a Christian and they're not very forgiving, or they know a Christian and they're not very loving. It's true. They probably do know someone who's not loving or forgiving. But it does give you an opportunity to say, yeah, but Jesus is. I'd like to talk to you about him a little bit, if I can. 3 quick ways that you might be able to share the gospel with somebody, just to begin the conversation. It's huge, and it might start you down a journey with somebody who says, you talk about Jesus, you talk about God. Can I hear a little bit more about it? The last way I would say that you can begin that conversation with someone is when you've got a friend at school or on your team or in your neighborhood who shares that they're going through a hard time. They don't know what to do with their parents. Their brother or sister are driving them up the wall. Maybe they're in trouble or they've been hurt by a friend. You can say, I'd love to take just a quick moment to pray for you, if that's okay. And normally when we say, hey, I'll be praying for you, we mean I'm going to pray for you later. I want to challenge you, pray for them right there. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be fancy. But pray for them right there and let them know immediately that you care about them and you want them to know that God loves them. Some tips for sharing the gospel, hopefully making it a little less awkward for you and your friends. My name is Ronald. I'm the middle school pastor at 410. Thanks so much.